So again, here we are once again with the Tom Ficklin Show, and thank the Ricky and crew and Citizens Television for making this show possible. It's February, so some folks will see this to be Black History Month. I've like the phrase Black to the Future Month, Black to the Future Month. Years ago when I was with the Inner City newspaper, I kind of tried to toy with the phrase of Afrogenesis Month, but in the real way, if we all kind of agree that humanity as we know it kind of emanated from a land mass that we now call Africa, and the way we all came from one place. So it's true that race is just a construct, but it appears that sometimes race and class become barriers to people's complete fulfillment. So welcome to Black History Month, welcome to Black Future Month, welcome to Humanity for the Future Month. We're going to focus a little bit on some Black history themes. I had a chance recently to be in Newark, New Jersey, and something called the Great Debate of America. And you had Princeton versus Howard University kind of talk about two resolutions in a debate format. The mayor of Newark, New Jersey, the current mayor, is Ross Baraka, and some of you might recognize his last name. So he's the son of Amiri Baraka in terms of, again, Black History Month and history and transformation. Amiri Baraka, before he changed his name, some of you might know him as Leroy Jones, but Ross Baraka is the current mayor of Newark, New Jersey, and we're going to show a brief clip where he's welcoming the folks at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. It's a Great America debate, and Scott X. Esdale here in Connecticut has really been one of the forerunners and the innovators of this great debate series where colleges, typically historically Black colleges and university, either Howard or Morehouse, et cetera, will engage in a debate, a civic discourse with, say, Princeton or Yale or Harvard. In fact, there's going to be one great debate in Connecticut in April 19th at the Webster Bank Arena. But we're going to show a clip from Ross Baraka, and he references Paul Robeson, and so that's really the primary reason I want to show it, because if you may or may not know the name Paul Robeson, and again, given this educational month, this educational focus, every 24/7, 365 should be a focus for education, but certainly whatever you want to call this month, it provides really an educational opportunity for all of us, Black, White, Red, Green, Yellow, to kind of get more involved and to really explore our humanity. But Ross Baraka references Paul Robeson, and I really urge folks to kind of just Google Paul Robeson if you don't know that name. We're also going to show some clips from Diane Nash. Diane spoke here at Yale during Martin Luther King month, if you will, the Martin Luther King celebration. And Diane was a student at Fisk University, a leader in the protest, the involvement, the strategy, the tactics of lunch counter sit-ins. It led kind of the desegregation of lunch counters at Fisk in Memphis, Tennessee. She also was a freedom rider. And we're going to show a few clips from her because it's really, in my mind, profound. I don't mind using that term about what she says, and I'll kind of introduce the clip and comment afterwards. She's soft-spoken, but to hear such a soft-spoken person that has put her life on the line in her early age, 18, 19, 20, 21, it kind of makes me think during this month of Black History Month, Black to the Future Month, what does it mean to be a human being on the planet? What does it mean to kind of give your life to something that you believe in that's greater than yourself? We're also going to show a clip, it's a short clip, it's a teaser, so I'm not going to say much about it now, but the Institute of Black World, again, consistent with our Black History Month theme, had a conference in Newark in terms of the state of the Black world. The title of the conference was The State of the Black World, and the Institute of Black World, they were the sponsors. Ron Daniels is a person to kind of Google in terms of what the IBW, Institute of Black World, is up to. But Minister Farrakhan spoke for about 2 hours, but prior to that, there's a group of young ladies that are members of the nation that or do a musical, a salute to him. We're going to show that. I'm not going to say more. It's kind of a teaser. But Ricky, let's go to the first clip where Ross Baraka introduces himself as well as greets the community and kind of thanks the Great America Debate folks for kind of coming to Newark. And again, it's the beginning of the debate between Howard and Princeton, which we're not going to show the debate, but I just want to kind of show this clip from Ross Baraka greeting everyone there. And it took place actually this past Friday.
Paul Robeson went, who was probably one of the best orators, scholars, activists, not only of his time, but of all time in American history. And if you're here today and you don't know who Paul Robeson is, you need to go back and talk to your teachers and professors about why they didn't tell you about American history completely and fully. Paul Robeson is incredibly important. When we talk about debate, this is a person that we should know at the forefront. I'm also glad to be here because Howard University is here, right? And I'm completely not biased at all. One of the biggest and baddest HBCUs on the planet, Howard University. I would never be the person who I am today if it wasn't for Howard University, good and bad, by the way. But Howard University produces scholars, and you'll see today, which I believe will be an incredible scholarly match between two great institutions here in the city of Newark. I'm glad that we're doing this at this time to let people know that we need to debate ideas. Ideas are incredibly important. These are the things that we need to move our community, move our country forward, to transform it into a place that I believe we've been trying to move this country into for a very, very long time. I think lately, ideas have been getting less importance. Content has been less important than style. And now, I think with you young people, it's important to bring content back. The ideas are incredibly important, and I know today you'll see these two universities battle it out in the realm of ideas. So I wish you both luck, both institutions luck today, and thank you for coming to the great and beautiful city of Newark. God bless you.
So again, that was a brief clip from Ross Baraka, the current mayor of Newark, and I wanted to show that, as I say, his father was Amiri Baraka, and I say was because although Amiri Baraka passed away about a year and a half ago, his spirit is still alive. His legacy is still alive. So check out Amiri Baraka. I consider him to be one of the foremost poets of America, not just a black poet, but the poets and truth tellers, truth seekers, creative minds here, birthed in this landmass called America. And again, Ross referenced Paul Robeson, the tallest tree in the forest, Paul Robeson. The next clip I want to show is, and I neglected to mention in my opening remarks, Bobby Ramos. Bobby Ramos is a retired police officer. I believe he retired as a detective in the Stratford area. But prior to the National Martin Luther King Day, Connecticut was either the first or second state to have to recognize the past through the legislature to honor to have a Martin Luther King Day. So the state of Connecticut celebrated Martin Luther King Day prior to it becoming a national holiday. To have a national holiday, as you know, various states have to kind of get on board and agree. So when Governor Ella Grasso was governor, and we had as treasurer Hank Parker, they were able to kind of pass, and Hank was really the spearhead, the pioneer of the Martin Luther King Day Commission, the state commission here, which is still in existence here in Connecticut. And so every Martin Luther King Day, there are honorees. And Bobby Ramos out of Stratford, as well as two other people, received the MLK Award from the state Martin Luther King Commission. And I just want to show Bobby's clip because he references Martin Luther King, and quite frankly, for me, between January and April is a very good time to kind of reconsider and think about Martin Luther King. So his birthday in January is certainly important. To me, the death in April, and some would say assassination, is almost as equally important for the reason that what he was planning to do publicly in that early April period, and something to take place in the spring. So his Poor People's March, history, we can't rewrite history, but it's fascinating to kind of speculate on how the world, society, the press, the media would have judged Martin Luther King if he had been able to implement the Poor People's March. And it did take place after his assassination, but it was of a different scale. But it was to bring all people of oppressed peoples, poor people together in Washington And prior to, obviously, 20, 40, 50 years before this Occupy Wall Street thing kicked in, it was really to occupy Wall Street and occupy Washington, D.C., rather, and not leave. You know, kind of go there and not leave until justice would rain down like water, so to speak. So it was to be a protest movement, but an occupied protest movement. But I digress. So, but Bobby kind of references in his remarks as he accepts the Martin Luther King Commission award, references in his remarks MLK in terms of the Poor People's March, in terms of the Martin Luther King's Vietnam speech, and it's again for Black History Month. Black to the Future Month, Human to the Future Month. I want to kind of just share the brief remarks from Bobby Ramos at the Martin Luther, as he accepts the award for the Martin Luther King Commission.
He had a hellacious last year of his life because of his stand against Vietnam. Everybody was against him because of his stance that year. But when he was talking to his people, he said, I was all about integration, but I feel that we're integrating into a burning house. And his money man, his right-hand man, Harry Belafonte, said, well, Dr. King, what should we do? And Dr. King said, we should become firemen. Understand this, in those days, Dr. King was on the FBI's most dangerous list. I don't think you heard me. Dr. King was #1 on the FBI's most dangerous list. And the only weapon he used was love. That was the only weapon he had, was love. Dr. King was about the power of love, not the love of power. So, with these days and weeks and months that are coming, we're going to need his strength to get through these days that we're headed for. But let's continue to learn, live, and love Dr. Martin Luther King. He was more than a speech. He was a radical brother who had an opinion. He spoke truth to power. Once again, I'm very honored and humbled and shy, John, for this prestigious award. And once again, I want to thank the Martin Luther King Commission, the state of Connecticut, and more importantly, my parents.
Let me just talk about, we're going to go to a clip that, again, was my kind of teaser. And the Institute of Black World had their conference in Newark. It was from a Wednesday through Sunday, actually, in Newark. Just be the weekend prior to Thanksgiving, and the Institute of Black World, under the leadership of Ron Daniels, had their conference on the state of the Black world, not just the state of, or Connecticut or New Jersey or even the United States, but the state of the Black world throughout the world. And as I say, the conference started on Wednesday and went through Sunday. And on Sunday, Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke, and we had some ladies, members of the nation, reasonably young, I would say in their teens to late 30s, late 20s rather. And it was kind of a kickoff, an introduction, it was a celebration of Louis. And again, I'm giving, excuse me, I'm giving some general terms because I want you to see this clip, but to me, it talks about what happens when we can be organized, disciplined, focused, and in unity. So it's kind of a tribute to before Minister Farrakhan spoke. And I think you'll find it. I think you'll find it interesting that the theme is, whose soldiers are we? Whose soldiers are we? But let's go to the clip from this group of young ladies that are members of the nation out of the Newark area. And it's a testimony to before Minister Farrakhan spoke.
Original salute, I don't let hard. Brigade salute, I don't let hard. Vanguard salute, I don't let hard. Only for the move, I don't let hard. Once the back move, I don't let hard. Vanguard salute. You're the cause, you're the cause. Count, hey, count.
Thanks for showing that, Ricky. I wanted to kind of, I look at that particular clip often because we know about Beyonce and the information and other kind of more recent creative ways of expressing our being information, which has been more for sometimes just, if you will, entertainment, but also message possibility. But this particular excerpt from and it's the drill team, it's the Vanguard, the Vanguard kind of youth women's group out of the Nation of Islam in New Jersey. To see them in formation, to see that commitment, and we know about stepping and other ways of kind of organizing from a dance standpoint, but to see this particular group is really profound and separate from your ideology or your belief system. It's just the Nation of Islam. We hear about during this Black History Month, Back to the Future Month, we celebrate Martin Luther King, Paul Robeson, but also we forget about the impact of the nation and the impact of other groups, Marcus Garvey, et cetera. So this is kind of a universal show where I want to kind of give a few spots and a few teasers about how complex, but also intricate, and also perhaps hopefully cohesive our march might be, our collective march toward unity and social justice and social change. I'm going to also post probably with this link the information, because you can't access the actual speech that Minister Farrakhan gave at this particular Institute of the Black World event. And again, the Institute of the Black World is under the creative leadership and really day-to-day managing of a gentleman by the name of Ron Daniels. Let's go forward. Diane Nash, again, we're going to show a clip from her, maybe 2 or 3 depending on the time. But Diane, a student at Fisk, helped integrate the lunch counters in Nashville, Memphis, kind of the Tennessee area. Also was a freedom rider. And this is, you hear about the freedom riders and integrating lunch counters, et cetera. And sometimes it becomes ancient history. Sometimes it becomes even just why is it important. But as late as the 1950s, 1960s, just to think about the fact that folks could not eat where they wanted to, had to be penalized for just being a human being of a different color. That still in 2017 just still boggles my mind about what kind of impetus or what kind of motif, what kind of being, what kind of rationale, what kind of education, what kind of beliefs would cause one certain segment of society to want to treat another way. But that's more metaphorical, but it's also a reality. But to have Diane Nash come to New Haven and to speak recently, and to hear this soft-spoken lady talk about her commitment for putting her life on the line for something that that should not even needed to occur. So let's go to a brief clip from Diane Nash here at Yale, and she was part of the Martin Luther King ceremonies. And every month, Yale has a tremendous number of events that take place in honor of Martin Luther King's birthday.
I received an excellent education in nonviolence and had the opportunity to practice it with Lawson and others until I learned how. We conducted a movement using nonviolence and successfully desegregated lunch counters in restaurants in Nashville. That was 1960. In 1961, the Congress of Racial Equality, known as CORE, began a campaign to desegregate interstate bus travel, Greyhound and Trailway buses. It soon became known as the Freedom Ride. If some of you are interested in knowing more about the Freedom Ride, the film Freedom Riders is an excellent way to find out about it. You can watch the entire film online. Just Google Freedom Riders, PBS, and Stanley Nelson. He's the director. In order to bring about desegregation of the buses, a small group of CORE volunteers left Washington, D.C. They were white and black, and the way that they planned to proceed, and actually did proceed, was to ride in the...
So again, that little teaser, just Google Diane Nash to hear a person at her age, and she referenced James Lawson, and in terms of and sometimes names get lost in the historical shuffle, but James Lawson, a key person in terms of teaching nonviolence and obviously close colleague of Martin Luther King. And if you think about that time of the lynchings, at the time of the precariousness, if you go, we have a lot of protests that are taking place now, but if you think about the times when the protests occurred back then, with the dogs, with the shooting, not to mention the lynchings, not to mention losing your job, not to mention the reprisals, this act of courage of young folks, as we're seeing today, and as we're seeing actually worldwide, it kind of reoccurs. So in some ways, it's kind of despondent. I feel despondent and sad in 2017 that we're still talking about why can't we all get along. On the other hand, perhaps history is always this tension between the good and the evil, between those that are courageous and those that are not trying to seek to help others. So for better or for worse, we seem to be in a marriage of humanity might be linked by a marriage proposal, and if we can make this marriage proposal more harmonious than disruptive, maybe that might be good. And certainly these days and times, it's challenging as well as the opportunities are there. But she references James Lawson, and I would Google James Lawson and think about the need to have that nonviolence courage. Diane mentions in this in her presentation when she spoke at Yale that what kind of kept them together was knowing that if I die, someone's going to stay, the group that I'm with, if I pass away, if I'm killed, burned as people were, shot, etc., someone else would step up to the plate. So the group that I'm with, that kind of loyalty and commitment to one another kind of kept people encouraged, knowing that you may not return. And the Freedom Riders, as she mentioned, the PBS film, Stanley Nelson, it's available. Google that. We heard about John Lewis, of course, but the PBS film, it's available online. Freedom Riders, PBS, Stanley Nelson. I want to go to another clip where Diane just talks about the indignity, just the fact that, again, keep in mind that the integrating the lunch counters, I mean, that's kind of simple, right? You should be able to eat wherever you want. But also in terms of the buses, the interstate buses, it was on the books. It was a law that you could not be segregated on the interstate buses. But the law was not enforced. So the Freedom Riders actually had to try to seek to have that law enforced. So again, we have a law, but if it's not enforced, is it really a law? And these days also kind of require us to kind of look at what's legal and what's right, the difference between what's legal and what's right. And certainly we see with immigration issues and other issues that are emanating out of DC, that again, these may be times for new freedom riders, for new seekers of justice, for new social change agents to kind of become a historical agent for improvement, for not just during Black History Month, not just during Women's History Month, not just during Prostate Cancer Month, but every 24/7, 365. So Ricky, let's go to the next clip from Diane Nash.
Her, when she came to a voter registration meeting that my husband and I were holding in the Delta. Once she got involved in the movement, it was much easier to recruit other people to go down to try to register because she was well-known, well-respected, and people figured, well, if Miss Hamer is involved in this, it must be all right. She was with the Freedom Democratic Party that went to the Democratic National Convention and tried to unseat the Mississippi delegation on the grounds that blacks were denied. And she was severely beaten in jail. I remember visiting her once and she was showing me bruises, and she had been severely beaten. There was Septima Clark, the citizenship.
So we have about one minute to go, and again, time gets flashed so quickly. Want to thank CTV, and again, that's brief clip from Diane Nash about, think about where in 2017 where we are as a society, as a nation, as a state, in your home, your church, whoever you're communing with, your workplace, and let's learn from the past. Let's basically learn from the past and make the future a brighter one. See you next time, and thanks again to CTV for all of your assistance. And support public access. It's your public access. See you soon.